Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Well, last episode with Mael Stronghart confessing that he is the man behind the concept of the Reaper, and he did it to maintain the peace of London. He attempted to bring the case to a close once again. However, we picked up on an inconsistency in something he said, leading to us to learn of a third page to the will that turned out to be a message to Casimir. Unraveling this message's secret, we plucked the dying declaration of Clint Van Zieks out of Karamar's hilt, presenting it to rock the courtroom once more, and prompting Mael Stronghart to explain what really happened at Lowgate Cemetery, as we get ever closer to the truth. It was Jigoku, your Japanese acquaintance, who killed Asugi in the end, you see. He claimed to be the man's friend, but when push came to shove, he pulled the trigger. Just before Mr. Jigoku left the courtroom earlier, he said that the assassin exchange proposal was a demand from his British counterpart, not a request. So you coerced him too, using what happened in the graveyard. By that time, Jigoku was the Minister of Foreign Affairs negotiating international treaties with Britain. You can imagine what would have happened if it came to light he'd murdered a compatriot 10 years earlier. He would have lost everything. I merely reminded him of that. How do you sleep at night? These past 10 years, I've fought tirelessly with the darker recesses of London's criminal underworld. And I've used whatever means necessary to ensure that justice prevails and law and order reigns supreme. Objection! That couldn't be further from the truth. The fact is, you haven't fought crime at all. How dare you? I saved Clint Van Zieks from dishonor in his death. Objection! Whilst behind the scenes, you systematically buried anyone who stood in your way. And then, you made my father take the blame. It was unavoidable. It was the only way to protect our justice system and public order. Let's not forget the others you had killed as well. Setting the defendant up as the Reaper to cover up the truth behind the murders of countless more. That's enough. Do you have any idea of the conniving that led to the acquittals of those wretched criminals? We have to fight fire with fire. Our courts can't function without a Reaper. Can't you see all I've done for this country? This has been my struggle. Objection! You've done nothing. It's Lord Van Zieks here who worked tirelessly and justly in court, whilst enduring the disgrace of the Reaper name. And Inspector Gregson, fraught with anguish for having sullied his hands through a desire to do the right thing. Not to mention Genshin Asuki, who risked his life going in pursuit of the truth you try to hide. No. The darker recesses of London's underworld were largely filled by you. You little! When will you get it through your thick skulls? That it was all for Queen and country. I'm tiring of that excuse. You've consistently twisted the truth for bargaining power to make others do your bidding. Nothing more. People who willingly twist the truth and coerce others have no right to call themselves part of the judiciary. I strongly suggest you don't ever talk of justice again. Ah. Well, dear me, my good fellows, dear me! A well-deserved round of applause, I think, for quite marvellous performance. What are you talking about? Those delightfully grave expressions that beautifully pronounce Queen's English. Really, our friends on the Far East are quite the picture of industriousness. You fraud. Keep your mockery. Please don't misunderstand. It really is exactly as you both said. What are you trying to say? I have occupied the darker recesses of London's underworld and, how did you put it? Done nothing. I confess it's a little embarrassing to have it pointed out quite so starkly, but yes, I really have done nothing, which means I can be indicted for nothing. No? What? It's true. Personally, I have committed no crime. I've merely been surrounded by fools who've acted very rashly indeed.
Objection!
You can't get away with that. You've consistently preyed on people's weaknesses. And what? Threatened them? Are you sure it wasn't just bargaining? I would like to address all the good lords, ladies and gentlemen of the judiciary here present. You all know of these darker recesses in our great capital, and deep down, I believe you also know that to fight those who dwell there requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. So let me appeal to your good sense now. Consider the situation with me. If this catalogue of horrifying revelations were to become common knowledge among the 6 million inhabitants of London, what might happen? To learn that the infamous murderer of royals and nobles was a respected member of the aristocracy himself. That evidence was fabricated in the scapegoat's trial amid secret negotiations with prosecutors to effect a jailbreak. That the Reaper of the Bailey was an organized group of assassins managed by a Scotland Yard inspector. And finally, that it was all masterminded by the Lord Chief Justice himself. If the general public of Britain knew the truth, all faith in the police and the prosecutor's office would be completely lost, without doubt. Public order in the capital would completely break down. We'd be cast back to the lawless days of the last century. Precisely, as it was 100 years ago when 1 in 10 of the population were criminals. Think what we've accomplished since then. A public policing force, a comprehensive set of laws. And if we want to continue to protect this new era of law and order, I say again, we must at times occupy the darkness ourselves. We have successfully identified and apprehended the man responsible for taking Inspector Gregson's life. That is all that was expected of this trial. All these other matters that have been discussed will be eliminated from the minutes of these proceedings in the interest of preserving law and order. And to protect Her Majesty the Queen, of course. Well, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, what say you? He has a point. The things Lord Stronghart has done are quite unforgivable. But on the other hand, isn't it our duty to maintain law and order in the capital? Can't deny the threat of the Reaper over the years has done wonders for the crime rate. And by fair means or foul, that's all thanks to Lord Stronghart. Are you hearing this? I hit the mic because I'm surprised. This is the will of the British judiciary. For your rousing response, friends, I express my heartfelt gratitude. Therefore, in accordance with the overwhelming wishes of the court, the records shall be erased. You have to respect the man's ability to turn a situation to his favor. Lord Stronghart really is a master of manipulation. You've conclusively proven his guilt, yet still he manages to evade justice. I just don't know what we can do. Ryunosuke, it looks like the trial really is going to come to an end now. I'm almost out of options, I think. There's really only one path left open to me. Raise an objection, use evidence, wait and see. Well, evidence is what gets things through on a court of law. Does it count as evidence? Because this is what the game wants me to do, right? Yes, as I know only too well. The only thing that carries any weight in court is hard evidence. But Mr. Naruhodo, what evidence is there to use at this stage in the trial? I have an idea. I don't know whether anything will come of it, but if there was ever a time for using this particular item we have among the evidence, it's now.
Take that!
Help me, Shones. Oh my, yes, Mr. Sholmes asked if you had that with you earlier. We've exposed all of Lord Stronghart's wrongdoing now. I've no doubt that Mr. Sholmes had already deduced exactly how the truth would unfurl. So I think it must be time for the great detective to take center stage, don't you? Yes, absolutely. Let's take the hair by the ears then, and heave! Alright, here goes. Heave! Ow, 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 ow! My dear fellows, must I remind you every time a gentle tug will suffice? Mr. Sholmes, you're looking in quite the wrong direction, Mr. Naruhodo. Because I'm over here. Ah! Mr. Naruhodo, he's... What? It's Mr. Sholmes! He's a hologram now? What tech he's got? I wasn't expecting you back, Sholmes. Delighted to be here again, Lord Stronghart. What is the meaning of this? Bailiff, seize him! Put that man in irons! This is a close court. You've been warned once already, man. Which is why he's given the hologram! What? What the? We can't get hold of him, my lord. We just go right through him. I'm afraid your efforts are wasted. You will see... The great detective you see before you is composed entirely of light and shadow. An image, if you will. Mr. Naruhodo, I must congratulate you on your fine deductions. Mr. Sholmes, what on earth is... Are you familiar, I wonder, with the invention known as the telephone? Well, yes, I hear that some public telephones have been installed recently in Tokyo. The sound of the speaker's voice is converted to an electrical signal and transmitted instantly to another place. Quite. Sounds are transmitted, so could not images keep them company, I mused. Alias and idea some modest experimentation to develop such a device specifically for this very day. Modest experimentation, Mr. Sholmes. What a modest description. And somewhat incidentally, I thought we might just as well transmit an entire scene. Somewhat incidentally, Mr. Sholmes. Now you're just being immodest. Do you mean to say you're not actually here, Sholmes? Ah, I knew my trusty partner would have no trouble grasping the concept. Except he's grasping the stand to steady himself after your shock arrival. Poor father. I would have hoped he might have been forewarned, being the great detective's great partner. Leave my courtroom at once. Get out or I swear to you. Dear me, you on the other hand, Lord Stronghart, appear to have a very poor grasp of the situation. Allow me to reiterate, I am not here. Which would, I hope, lead naturally to one asking, where exactly are you? The very question I was awaiting. I am at present enjoying the air in a rather splendid garden. A garden? Not just any garden, you understand. A garden at Buckingham Palace. What? You can't be. Buckingham Palace? What's Buckingham Palace, Miss Susato? I've never heard of it. Do you ever read the news, Miss Naruhodo? Miss Sholmes? Is Iris with you there? Ah, well now, I was just currently enjoying some tea. With Her Majesty. Her Majesty? Not just any Her Majesty, you understand? Her Majesty, the Queen of the British Empire! What? What on earth is this all about? Buckingham Palace. It's Her Majesty the Queen's residence in London, Miss Naruhodo. Order! Order in court! I demand immediate silence! Her Majesty the Queen! You can't be, I mean... No! This is some sort of unforgivably distasteful trickery by a third-rate detective, that's all! Unforgivably distasteful trickery! What an apt description! A closed court session attended by elite members of the judiciary is a rare event. I presume that Her Majesty would be no more than a little curious about the proceedings. So I decided to show her everything from start to finish. You showed her? Indeed. By dint of the Herlock Sholmes remote cinematograph, sure. You meddling... This is some kind of nightmare. Just as I appear to be standing before you regaling you with talk of my latest invention. No doubt you've inferred that the reverse is also true. You don't mean... Her Majesty has seen and heard every moment of the proceedings. I assume there would be no objection, after all. Every trial in this country is conducted under the auspices of Her Majesty, as you know. You... I confess I am quite impatient to hear Her Majesty's opinion about the unforgivably distasteful trickery in which you've been engaged over the past 10 years. No, I was merely...
Oh, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. Vicky and I had so much to talk about. Iris, there you are. In fact, I have a little message here from Her Majesty.
A message? Well then, if everyone is sitting comfortably... Forthwith and with immediate effect, all authority previously afforded to Mael Stronghart is hereby revoked forevermore. Furthermore, he will be prosecuted for crimes against his country in a public trial by jury in the coming days. So, it seems that Her Majesty doesn't believe we need to fight fire with fire. Justice in this country needn't be administered from the shadows at all. Mael Stronghart, the darkness you fostered to conceal your despicable actions these last 10 years is a thing of the past now. After today, your brand of law and order has no future, because no longer are you the Lord Chief Justice. In the eyes of the law and of Her Majesty the Queen, you are nothing but a criminal. Adjourned! 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 Court is adjourned! Whoosh! I see you super guiltied yourself. Oh my goodness! Oh! Oh! Ah! I thought they were very spiky. Wasn't about the fire for me. Lord Clint Van Zeeks left a will in which he confessed to everything. When those words came out of Asugi's mouth, it deranged me completely. I knew I must do anything and everything in my power to contain the situation. But I couldn't find the damn document. I searched his cell, but it wasn't there. Which precipitated the jailbreak plot, I presume. What do you mean? The need to obtain that will was all-consuming. I was sure that if I facilitated Asogi's escape, he would emerge with the will somewhere on his person. But despite searching his limp body in the cemetery that night, it still eluded me. It never even crossed my mind that it was concealed in the sword's hilt. You really want to be standing next to Barrock? What pains me now is that my brother left this world without a word to me. I'm sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. In point of fact, I think perhaps that isn't the case. Sorry? How can that be? There is more to his last will and testament. What? As I confront the prospect of my demise, I feel bitter regret for my younger brother. Balok, you have always looked up to me, and now you follow in my footsteps to become a prosecutor. It is my fervent wish that my unspeakable deeds should not hinder your advancement. I ask not for understanding, for none could understand my depravity. I ask only for forgiveness. Asugi is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He has agreed to honor my final 2 wishes. The first is that this document survives. The second, I cannot commit to paper. I have confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. With my eternal gratitude to my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks. Clint. Mael Stronghart. You colluded with Seishiro Jigoku in a criminal plot so immense it spanned the oceans. And you cold-heartedly murdered all those who knew the truth about what happened 10 years ago. But why did you set about that now, a whole decade later? To ascend to the very peak. These last 10 years made me realize being the Lord Chief Justice wasn't enough, short of becoming Her Majesty's Attorney General. I could have no real power to effect the changes needed in this country. And for that promotion, I needed to ensure no remnants of the past remained. How could you? I like everything to run smoothly, in the exact manner that I prescribe, like a well-oiled machine. And I was just a step away. And for your ambition to succeed. Did you even bother to count the number of brilliant people you had killed? Ah, Mr. Reaper, are you not forgetting something? Such as? You very much adopted your usual prosecutor-like demeanor in the proceedings now. But the reality of the situation is that you are the defendant in this trial. Ah! However, the presiding judge would appear to have fallen from the bench, as it were. May I suggest, therefore, that we entrust the final adjudication to an old friend? My lord! As a member of the judiciary, I have been following the proceedings from the gallery. And I must say, I shan't ever forget the extraordinary battle between good and evil that I witnessed here today. The darkness that has blighted justice in our land these past 10 years has at last been dispelled, thanks in no small part to the efforts of a bright young star from the east. Defense Counsel Naruhodo. Yes, my lord. On behalf of everyone here present in the Old Bailey, I give you my heartfelt thanks. You're too kind, my lord. The first time I faced you in court, just under a year ago now, I had the faintest of intimations. And if British justice, so warped and twisted over its long history, was finally to know change, this might just be the man to do it. What? But at the time, I wouldn't allow myself to acknowledge the possibility. I couldn't overcome my hatred of the Japanese after the circumstances of my brother's death. Mr. Naruhodo, allow me to apologize for countless discourtesies on my part. You are a lawyer of boundless talent.
Oh, Lord Van Zeeks!
When I first arrived in Great Britain, I was literally a nobody. Certainly not a lawyer. The truth is, my fortunes have entirely been made by the miraculous people I've met. My best friend, Kazuma Asugi, who led me here to Britain in the first place. My loyal and ever-patient judicial assistant, Miss Susato, who helped me study to become a lawyer. The brilliant Lord Van Zeeks, who never failed to challenge his Nipponese rival. And not to mention, the exceptional master of logic and reasoning who showed me the true art of deduction, Mr. Sholmes. Saving the best for last, Mr. Naruhodo. What a relief. I'm well aware. that without all these people's help and support, I wouldn't be where I am today. The truth is a guiding light that always leads to happiness. I've lived by that principle for a long time now, but actually, it's not true. The truth can also cause great pain, sometimes even leave people on the brink of despair. For that reason, there are those who feel the need to hide the truth, who do it instinctively even. But as soon as we allow our eyes to settle on something other than the truth, the darkness takes hold. And from there it grows, until eventually, it makes us blind to the guiding light of the truth altogether. So that's why it's my belief that we must all resolve never to avert our eyes from what is just and true. So that we can continue to walk the straight and narrow path ahead. Well, I must excuse myself now. But before I go, Mr. Naruhodo, let me compliment you on your grand opus. What? Without your beautifully composed case against Lord Stronghart, Her Majesty would have been unable to act. Thanks to you and your fellows, the haunting undertones corrupting Britain's justice system have been silenced. Thank you very much. So, until our paths cross again somewhere. Well then, it would appear that this long trial has finally come to an end. My apologies for any anxiety caused, my lord. I'm quite sure we shall meet again here in the courtroom before long, Prosecutor Barok van Zieks. In conclusion of these proceedings, I hereby declare the defendant, Barok van Zieks. There we go. We deserve them fireworks. That is all. A court is adjourned. I wouldn't be surprised if the credits ran now, but we should have a celebration period, right? On the 4th of November at 4:21 p.m., the Old Bailey. Defendant's antechamber. It really is all over. But did I sacrifice too much? Mr. Naruhodo? I really must congratulate you. It was a truly splendid performance. Honestly, I couldn't be happier for you. Oh, thank you very much. Well, I really couldn't have done it without you at my side through it all, Miss Susato. Oh. Your kind words mean so much to me. It really was a very splendid show, that, Naruhodo. I'd have thought you'd be smiling from ear to ear, but you look rather glum. Well, of course I'm delighted about the verdict, but in exposing the truth, I'm afraid I've caused my client a great deal of pain. I'm really not sure that's what a lawyer ought to be doing. Oh well, in that case, I'm quite sure that when you see Lord Van Ziek's smiling face, everything will seem much better. Miss Susato? Everything seems worse. He has a face like thunder. Oh dear, I really shouldn't have presumed. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Almost a year it's been now, since I first encountered you here in this very courthouse. For you to have risen to the level of excellence you demonstrated today, well, it's quite remarkable. But I exposed the most unpalatable truth you could ever have imagined in court today. I feel as though I've robbed you of something you held so dear. What was it he said? To fight those who dwell in the darkness requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. But that was just the feeble excuse of a coward. Only those with a steadfast eye for the truth have what it takes to fight the dark forces of crime. You made fine work of establishing that fact in court today. Oh. Well, thank you.
What magnanimous words! I'm quite sure that Kazuma-sama would have a smile on his face at this very moment if he were here.
Kazuma. Miss Susato? There's another face like thunder here.
Oh my! And he really was here.
Lord Van Zieks. Allow me to congratulate you on your acquittal. Congratulate me, or curse me, who failed to bring down the Reaper. I owe you an apology. No, it is I who should apologize. Your father, Genshin, and I had been stronger, then perhaps I made an unforgivable error of judgment. I can offer no excuse. And I can offer no forgiveness. That said, I suppose you fought for justice and the truth. For that at least, I can't withhold respect. Your words mean more to me than you could know. I will hold them dear.
Kazuma-sama.
I must say, there's one thing that's still bothering me. What's that? The will that Lord Clint Van Zieks wrote before his duel with my father. Asugi is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He has agreed to honor my final two wishes. The first is that this document survives. The second, I cannot commit to paper. I have confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. With my eternal gratitude to my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zieks. What can the second of his final wishes have been? That your father agreed to honor, you mean? I think perhaps... Ah! I might be able to shed some light on that. What?
Father!
It was 10 years ago, as you know, the day before the execution was scheduled. I went to the prison to say my farewells to Genshin. Why aren't you putting up more of a fight, Genshin? If you'd only agree to it, Seishiro and I would gladly petition the government. We've been through this already. You don't need to worry about me. Anyway, Yujin, I have a favor to ask of you. Something of great importance. You're one of my greatest friends, Genshin. Whatever it is, consider it done. I'm going to tell you an address. I need you to go there at once in secret and telling no one. You should find a lady of the gentry in hiding there. A lady of the gentry. She's not in a good way, and she's with child. The birth is imminent. As a medical man, I'd like you to attend to her. Please, you're our only hope. By any chance, is the child yours, Genshin? Don't be daft. It's a favor that was asked of me by a man I knew, as his dying wish. My goodness! I swore to the man that I would help, and I would do whatever I could for his wife and his unborn child. But if something should have happened to me, I need to ask you that same favor. You're the only person I know that I can truly rely on. What did you say? If something should happen to you? Tomorrow night, you were going to be... You never know, though, do you? What life will bring. Alright then, tell me the address. I'll head there at once. With Seishiro and... No, not with him. Pardon? This is a favor I'm asking of you. And only you, Yujin. Right, I see. Very well then. That very night, I caught a train from Paddington to Dartmoor in Devon. I found the old house in the middle of nowhere. It was an old hunting hound that lay asleep in the grounds. In the middle of nowhere it was. The poor woman was on the floor at the back of a darkened room. She was in mortal danger. I broke her waters to precipitate the labor before she weakened further, but it was a torturous birth. I did everything humanly possible for her and her child. And in the end, I was lucky enough to welcome a new life into the world. But tragically, my efforts to save the mother's life were in vain. I held the healthy newborn girl in my arms and wept for longer than I care to remember. Eventually, in something of a daze, I looked around the room. There was a precious little in it, but an old travel trunk caught my eye. It had clearly been well looked after over the years, made of top-quality leather with fine stitching. But it was when I saw the emblem on the side of it that everything dropped into place. B for Baskerville.
Baskerville?
Do you mean the woman was the wife of Lord Clint Van Zieks? That's right. The newborn was his daughter. But that makes no sense. Why on earth would Clint have entrusted the child to my care in that case? I was completely unaware that he even had a daughter. I suppose he didn't really have any choice. What? Well, your brother said that he'd confessed everything to his wife. So she must have been beside herself with worry for her child. If the true identity of the professor were ever to be made public, the girl would be forever branded as the daughter of the infamous mass murderer. Ah! So the only solution was to distance the young girl from the Van Zieks family as much as possible. I don't believe it. I imagine that in his final hour, Lord Clint Van Zieks made the obvious choice. He would have thought to himself, this Japanese man here is someone I can trust. I honored my promise to Genshin, of course. However, only a month later, I was summoned back to Japan. And without disclosing the parentage of the child, I couldn't obtain permission to take her with me.
Oh, how awful.
I was completely at a loss. In the end, I had to ask my great friend. I asked him if he would be a father to her. That being Mr. Sholmes, I presume. Yes. He took one look into my eyes and agreed to it on the spot. Mr. Sholmes? He has a heart of gold. Really, all that can be said that I did for the child was to give her a name. Oh? When I'd come to Britain, I was trying to escape from the grief of losing my darling wife. So it was her name that I gave the little girl. Your wife's name, Professor Mikotoba? In other words,
The name of my mother. Ayami Mikotoba. Oh!
That's right, Ayame. Or in English, Iris.
Iris. I had no idea.
That's the ding-dong in my brain. Ouch!
Mr. Nanahoda, what's wrong?
This little thing just pinched me on the behind through my trouser pocket. Hard! Ah, my dear fellows, can you hear me?
Mr. Sholmes, is that you?
Ouch! Yes, we can hear you. You see what excessive tugging can do. Let that be a lesson to you.
Mr. Sholmes, we weren't able to thank you properly before, but you were simply marvelous. Your checkmate move was a stroke of genius.
Indeed it was, wasn't it? I surpassed myself, I feel. It became apparent to me that to stop the Lord Chief Injustice would require such measures. Nice name.
Bruno! Susie!
Oh, Iris!
Oh, I'm so pleased. What a wonderful outcome. Her Majesty Queen Vicky said she thought my special blend was delicious.
Oh, I'm sure she did. After all, no one brews a more delicious tea than you do, Iris.
Let's have a party to celebrate. And Mr. Reaper, you simply must come too.
What? I'm afraid I couldn't. The Reaper of the Bailey, flustered by a 10-year-old girl. Again.
No? Really? Oh, pooh.
But I give you my word that I shall present myself at your residence in the near future to express my gratitude.
Oh, how lovely. You promise now. I won't let you forget. Bye for now, then.
All right, Iris. Thank you for all your help earlier.
Oh, that was nothing. Just come back home soon.
Ouch! One final pinch goodbye, was it? Well, I think I ought to be leaving. Lord Van Zeeks, would you care to accompany me? Certainly. Mr. Naruhodo, allow me once again to express my deep gratitude to you. I believe you saved my life. Wait, Lord Van Zeeks! Yes? What are you intending to do now? Well, clearly, I shall have to resign from the prosecutor's office.
Oh, no!
I intend to publicize the full truth about the Professor case. Once that's done, the Van Zeeks family will be ostracized completely from London society.
Surely not.
So as soon as I am free from my employment, I shall leave the capital. Oh, I see. Don't be a fool. Are those the actions of a man once feared as the mighty Reaper of the Bailey? I beg your pardon? For the past 10 years, you've endured that pseudonym and been cast as one of the dark forces yourself. Now that you've finally been freed from that disrepute, your battle is just beginning. Surely. Well, I certainly never expected to hear those words from your lips. I waited a very long time to come to London. Now I'm properly here, I intend to learn all that I can. Anyway, goodbye for now. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Kazuma Asugi. It seems as though he's really matured suddenly.
He's not the only one who's matured, Mr. Naruhodo.
Huh?
Well, I think we should make our way back to Baker Street. We must help Iris with tonight's dinner.
We must. It was then that I came to an important decision about my future.